Welcome, beloved community, as we come together on this sacred occasion to commemorate the life and contributions of Alice Hooe Foster. With deep reverence and admiration, we gather to honor her steadfast spirit, unwavering courage, and boundless dedication to service. Alice Hooe Foster's name shines brightly as a beacon of hope and resilience in the chronicles of history. Born in an era of adversity, she dared to dream, to defy the constraints of time, and to carve a path of progress for generations to come. As the first African American graduate of Montclair High School, Alice blazed trails where none had dared to tread before. Her contributions to her community and beyond are truly remarkable. Dear guests, it is my honor to present to you a symbol of Alice's lasting presence in our hearts and community. This brick proudly displays her name and is a testament to her legacy. Today, we gather to dedicate this brick in our honor.
We dedicate this brick to the memory of Alice Hooe Foster. May it serve as a lasting reminder of her love for Montclair and her commitment to improving our community. May this brick forever mark the spot where her memory resides. As Alice's life continues to inspire us, may this brick inspire future generations to come.
For the courage that knows no bounds,
we give thanks for Alice Hooe Foster.
For the vision that inspires generations,
we give thanks for Alice Hooe Foster.
For the love that knows no limits,
we give thanks for Alice Hooe Foster.
For the legacy that endures through time,
we give thanks for Alice Hooe Foster.
Let us pray. Gracious God, as we conclude this ceremony of dedication, we ask for your blessings upon this brick, a symbol of Alice Hooe Foster's enduring legacy. May it stand as a testament to her unwavering commitment to justice and equality. May it inspire all who encounter it to follow in her footsteps. May we offer this prayer in the name of love and remembrance. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us today, and please, you're welcome to join Angelica for the tour of the Howe House, where you will walk the corridors and visit the rooms where Alice worked, along with Hortense Tate and many other of perhaps your ancestors who worked. So thank you all for joining us. And please, join the tour.
If you are interested, please.
I would think probably my very, very most favorite was that I came here for ballet lessons as a young girl. I, along with two of my best friends, and I love that so much. I have one more I'd like to add. I was also a junior daycare counselor here. I loved it. I have such wonderful, fond memories of my days here at the YWCA. Yes, indeed.
Okay, I can remember Saturday mornings going to the Y with my sisters. We took ballet lessons there. Look forward to it every Saturday, packing our clothes. And then we were located at the gym over on Glenridge Avenue. And then when we were done, we'd move across the parking lot, actually, into the building that's above us right now. It was fun times, and we look forward to every Saturday.
I have very fond memories of the Y. I took tap, ballet, acrobatic dancing in the Y. As a youngster, I was like 5, 7, but as a teenager, I belonged to a group called the Los Amigos. We named ourselves the Los Amigos. And the other great memory that I have is the National Council of Negro Women, which my mother was a member of. They used to have their luncheons at the Y. And in 1950, I went with her to the luncheon, and Mary McLeod Bethune was there, and I was able to shake her hand and say hello to her. And as the Los Amigos, we used to have dances on the weekends, once a month on Friday, where from 9 to 12, and we had punch, and we were able to dance, and it was really very nice.
Because I have so many fond memories of the Y. I grew up in the YWCA. In fact, the Y was essentially my babysitter. My twin sister Leslie and I, we took ballet lessons there, we took tap lessons, we took drama lessons. We met a lot of people that we went on to perform in New Jersey Lincoln Center with. Sharon Brunson was one of the premier dancers with us, and the list goes on. The one thing, if I had to pick one thing that just stands out, is Bobby Riley. I took drama lessons with Bobby Riley, and I don't remember exactly how old I was at the time, but I know I was extremely bashful. And I used to hide behind my twin sister Leslie, who was much more outgoing than I, and so she would answer all the questions. And when I met Bobby Riley and we were taking drama lessons, she said, no, you have to project, you have to dig within, raise your diaphragm, you have to project. And she said, God gave you a blessing, you have a lot to say, and I want you to project, and I want you to hold on to that and look at the back of the audience when you speak. And I really believe that's been a godsend in my life, because now as I go along and pursue public service, I find that voice all the time. So I'm grateful so much to Bobby Riley. Bobby, if you watch this, God bless you. I thank you inestimably. And that's just one of the many examples of how the Y contributed to who I am today.
But we're all here to celebrate the legacy of Alice Hooe Foster. So thank you all. This is a great turnout. My name is Tanisha Bussey. My name is Tanisha Bussey, and I am the co-chair of the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation. I co-chair alongside Roger Terry, who you guys will hear from later today on the panel. For all of those who are unfamiliar with our organization, we organize a parade and festival that takes place the first Saturday every June. And then we also have had the opportunity to donate over $30,000 in scholarships to college seniors thus far. And we are also able to put on the Legacy Tour, a tour that visits historic sites in Montclair that are associated with the legacy of African Americans, under the leadership of the chair of the Historic Committee, Betty Holloway. And as an organization, we are headed into our 34th year of service here in Montclair. An aspect of our mission at MHF is to preserve the culture and legacy and just the overall contributions of African Americans here in Montclair. And Alice Hooe Foster's legacy, being the first African American to graduate from Montclair High School, and also being the founder of the YWCA for African American women, I know at that time it was called Colored Women, is definitely a legacy worth honoring and preserving. And so we're grateful to the Montclair History Center and Angelica for our partnership to celebrate this legacy. Believe it or not, the YWCA was my first job, by the way, back in 2004 or 2005, and that was before I understood whose shoulders I stood upon. So thank you to the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation Historic Committee for your planning towards this event. And thank you to our committee member Diane Graves and Sandwiches Unlimited for supplying us with the food for this event. We hope you guys will get to enjoy some sandwiches from Sandwiches Unlimited. And a huge thank you to our fearless leader, Miss Betty Holloway, for your passion and dedication to preserving the history of African Americans in Montclair, and for making sure their stories do not remain untold. Angelica's gonna come up next. Thank you, guys.
just want to give a welcome for the Montclair History Center. A lot of familiar faces I already know. For those who I have yet to meet, I'm the director here at the Montclair History Center. We truly appreciate the partnership of the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation. Been working together for many years. I think I see Betty sometimes on a weekly basis in our office doing research work. You're truly so dedicated and passionate about making sure that Montclair's history is shared and preserved, and we share in that mission. So I'm really honored to have today's event. The YWCA is a really special history and in our hearts here as we share it through the museum. So we're thrilled to host this honor for Alice Hooe Foster, who is that founder of the YWCA, amongst other women. At the end of all of today's presentations, if you haven't been to the museum upstairs, we're welcoming you to join me for a tour through. So please stick around if you'd like to do that. If today's not a good day, we're open every Sunday. So please come back and take a look. The Y's history is very powerful and important to me. So I want to make sure we share that. So thank you all for being here.
First of all, I'd like to thank Angelica because she was with me in the early years. I think I started this research in 2016, and Angelica was the assistant to Jane at that time, and she shared in a lot of my jubilation when I found something. She was amazed that I was able to even read the cursive writing, that we found. But I am truly grateful to the History Center for opening all of the archives to information that I didn't even know that I wanted or needed. But they provided it, and I really and truly appreciate it. And I really do. And you know something, this gives me a perfect opportunity to say thank you to Montclairites, or I've seen Montclairians. Which one is it? Montclairites? You have been so supportive because this is your history, but it's also my history. Because, I feel that coming through St. Mark's and with Hortense being one of my mentors in that church, I learned a lot that I am able to share. And I only regret that I didn't ask her more questions about the things that she was telling me. Familiar names to all of you, Bessie Moss. She would always tell me about Bessie that she was younger than Bessie. And I found out it was by 6 months. But she was serious, and they were both 99 at the time. So that's what she would share with me. And she also talked about Alice Hooe Foster, who has been a passion of mine. And when I started on this project, it was through the encouragement of, and I hope you all know her, she was a Y woman, Dr. Shirley Lewis, who was running the Black History Month programs over at the Y. She asked me to do one thing. And I tell people I was like Jonah in the whale. I had one idea about what I wanted to do while she asked me to do something entirely different. And when I got up to talk, it wasn't about what she asked me to do. I ended up finding all this information about Alice Hooe Foster and who she was to the YW. And then I was finding out all this family information. And I just got completely absorbed in who her family was and what their travels were to this area, at almost as far back as the incorporation of the township of Montclair, and when they came here in 1874. And so I'm happy to share this afternoon in conversation with Roger Terry, who, as you see the rotation of these pictures, his grandmother, who was one of the founding members that Alice pulled together from St. Mark's United Methodist Church and Union Baptist Church, these 17 women pulled together to establish that organization. Now, a lot of people like to say that Alice got her inspiration from a sermon that was preached at St. Luke's in March of 1912. And so that was an inspiration to her. However, Alice was a member of the Women's Auxiliary Committee, which were very popular prior to the YWCAs being formally organized. So she started as the chairperson of the Women's Auxiliary Committee. Now, what do you imagine the chairperson of the Women's Auxiliary Committee, what would their purpose be in the YMCA for the women there? What I read was that they were there to make life for the young men more beautiful. They were to decorate. And so they would understand the importance of family and just to encourage programs that would make them feel more whole and a part of the community. So Alice started with that position. You know, the YMCA gave them the go-ahead to start a Y for colored men. And by the way, I have to say something about that. It was the policy of the National YWCA for there to be a distinction between the main Y and the Y for other people. That's why they felt like the public should know that there's the big Y and then there's the Y for colored people. And that's why the YW was also named the YWCA for colored women. There had to be a distinction there. So we can't say, so the prejudice goes up the ladder. Okay. So about her membership and chairpersonship of that Ladies Auxiliary Committee. It started in 1905. And so she was there until 1912. So I have come to the understanding that she was well aware of the operations of the YWCA, and she just wasn't inspired by one moment of understanding, but it was the need that was coming to Montclair from the great migrations. And there was a massive migration in 1900, another massive migration in 1910. So there were a lot of needs in this area to service the general public. So why are we here celebrating Alice? Because she had the inspiration. You already learned she's the first African American to graduate from Montclair High School with honors, I might add. The Reverend Amory Bradford made this statement, who was the minister over at First Congregational Church, made the statement that this young lady is going to do big things. He was really proud of her, and there were a lot of people at Montclair High School who were very proud of her and her academic progress. Because if you look through these rotating slides, what I have there was her conditional acceptance to the high school, signed by Randall Spalding, the superintendent who ultimately created this system that we still enjoy as one of the best school systems in the country. And the second little document that pops up is her graduating class. And there were only 13 in that senior class, 13 young people in that class. And she had a major role in the ceremony, which was conducted at the First Congregational Church. So in addition to Alice's story, one of the things that you can enjoy is the documentary that was done here through the Montclair History Center called A Place to Become, where a lot of women in the town who benefited from the programs at the YWCA were able to share that experience. And so that's a worth-see documentary if you haven't seen it. And I think it's on the History Center's YouTube web page if you're ever interested, to hear the stories that the women are sharing. When we go outside, our lay leader at St. Mark's will lead us in a dedication of the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation, of the brick that we've placed there. Now, I have to share with you that I have been challenged by someone who is very influential in my life now. She said, you all ought to be putting a bronze plaque up at the high school. Now, I won't put her on blast, but she knows who I'm talking about. So, and I think that that is probably where we will be going with our next project. So, now, sharing this podium with me this afternoon is Roger Terry. We all know him, right? Right? Town council, right? Co-chairperson of Montclair African American Heritage Foundation, president, you're like on hiatus right now, NAACP, and retired Montclair policeman.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
That's right. Rogers, I mentioned to you earlier that his grandmother is in this picture, and Roger will share with us a few things. And then our next presenter is Joseph Roby. Joseph lives in Philadelphia, and he drove all the way here to share this program with us today. Thank you, Joseph. Now, Joseph is a genealogist. I, with my research, go back to 1874 with the Hooe family. Joseph goes back even further. Joseph found me on the Montclair History Center site in the presentation, and he'll tell you what his family connection is when he shares a few slides related to the Hooe family and what we now, you know, this is better than Roots. How many of you watch Roots?
I'm not sure about that, Betty.
No, I mean the entire program, because we have a whole community to share in this. We have a community of very proud Montclairites, and that is very motivating. When people live in a town, they're proud of their town, and when you can share information to make them even prouder, you know, that's an honor. It's an honor for me, and I thank you for being so accepting of the research that I've done. So, the first question I have, and I'm going to sit down and share it with my panel here, to Roger. Roger,
Yes.
what does it feel like knowing the contribution that your grandmother made to so many people, being a part of that original Board of Managers group that got together with Alice at her home, which is at 415 Bloomfield Avenue, got together at her home to talk about what they needed to do to serve the public?
Well, first of all, Betty, thank you for the opportunity. Welcome to everyone who is here today. It's a tremendous honor to talk about Montclair history. I'm a third generation of individual here in Montclair. I see some people like Sharon Burton, who also went to St. Mark's Church with our family back in the day. I see some other individuals, Dr. Baskerville, Ms. Thomas, and some others that go back here in the township of Montclair. You know, many times when you think about it, history is wasted sometimes because we don't ask enough questions from back in the day. My grandfather and grandmother, they came into town about 1904. You know, they had some relatives that were here related to the mice and the shepherds. The word from down south was Montclair was a fair place to come to, and it was a place that you can come get a good job. And some of the good jobs then were janitors for African Americans, butlers, and maids. Now, it might not have seemed like a lot then, but that was a good job for somebody coming from down south. My grandmother, Harriet Scott Terry, she's a mulatto. her father actually put her through Morgan University, so she came up here with a degree. And of course, she wasn't able to teach, unfortunately, but she mentored many young people in the day, just when she met Mrs. Foster also, and that entire group of individuals. She lived in a rooming house at 228 Bloomfield Avenue, and somehow or another she met my grandfather there, and they were married, sometime shortly after that. I don't remember Mrs. Foster. She passed away, before I was born. But my grandmother and grandfather were attached to St. Mark's Church, which was the hub at that time for African American activity. It was also where the NAACP began, at St. Mark's Church. I do remember Mr. Foster, and Sharon, I don't know if you remember him, but I do remember him. That's right.
Superintendent of the Sunday school.
That's correct.
Yes.
In Sunday school, he was one of our Sunday school teachers back then. St. Mark's Church was a great place to be raised. The original church in some of these pictures was out on Bloomfield Avenue. The parsonage is still out on Bloomfield Avenue. That building you see right next, behind the school, is right next to another building that's out there also.
Sandwiched in between.
That's correct. The original church burned down on Good Friday of all days. And St. Mark's had their services in this very building right here, the Women's Y, before they built the St. Mark's Church that you see right now out on Elm Street. They also used to gather at the old folks' home. Does anybody remember that, where that was on Hilltop? There was a building, a home there, that after Sunday school and after church on Sunday, a lot of the residents from all over town, African Americans, used to go to this building, this house on Hilltop Place, and share dinners and share stories and everything like that on those days. Mrs. Foster not only was an inspiration to a lot of young people, including my grandmother, but she was inspiration to a lot of the men also that were in the community. My grandfather, who was a janitor at Montclair State University, actually spoke to the Montclair local the other day. They're going to do a little something on him, and some of what he did in the community. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I had these giants, whose shoulders, my ancestors, that I stand on, that drives me to do some of the things that I've done in this community. Not all about Roger Terry, but it's trying to preserve some of the things that they did before us. Unfortunately, a lot of these people didn't talk a lot. If you ask them, I can remember asking my father about history, and he would say to me, "That's enough now. You're asking too many questions." They didn't talk a lot about it, and unfortunately, a lot of that history is lost. But today, I challenge the young people to make sure that you talk to your parents. Make sure you talk to your grandparents. Make sure you talk to your aunts and uncles and people in the community, so that history that is so valuable, especially in communities like this, is passed on. Thank you.
Now, Joseph has several slides. This is why I say it's better than Roots. This is like when Skip Gates says he reaches that brick wall, and then he goes through a few other things, and he jumps over that and he finds other information. So once my information was pulled together, I have to mention also that I have made connection with Hooe family members, and they live in Long Island. Unfortunately, they were invited here today. Unfortunately, there was a conflict, and Alice's, the mother is Alice's namesake. Her name is Alice also. So the names in that family passed down from generation to generation, so you can kind of keep up with them. And so Joseph is going to take us back, and he will share with you what his connection is with the Hooes and what Montclair's connection is with the Hooes, and with several other people in the town, in the township.
Thank you very much, Betty. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks to the Montclair History Center. Thanks to Montclair African American Heritage Foundation. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay in the back. All right, so I think as Betty said, a professional genealogist. I think Betty said a little bit how I found her. I found Betty through a YouTube video on Montclair History's YouTube page. But I'm working on a project, have been since 2019. My ancestors owned a plantation called Oakley in Fauquier County, Virginia, which is in, it's kind of a suburb of DC. It's in Northern Virginia. And so my ancestor's surname was Dulaney, and my direct ancestors, their cousins owned a plantation nearby called Welburn. That's where the Hooes come in. So those Dulaneys enslaved the Hooes. So that's where the connection there. So, and it also turns out I was researching Montclair before I got connected with Betty, and because so many people who were from Oakley also come to Montclair. So I've been researching tons and tons of people. So it's an amazing connection. So here is, I don't know if you noticed on Betty's slides, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see Charles W. Hooe and Sarah Turner. So those are Alice's parents. So above that, you'll see Alfred Hooe with 2 wives. I'm not entirely sure if Sarah on the left is another wife or not, but mostly it is Priscilla on the left. So those would be, Alfred and Priscilla would be Alice's grandparents. And so this tree, Alfred Hooe here, and again, for some reason in Virginia, most of the times the name is spelled H-O-E and not a double E, not sure why. So this Alfred Hooe would be Alice's uncle. And these are all his children on the bottom line there. And this is Charles Wesley Hooe, Alice's father, and his tree there. And you can see Alice on, where's Alice? There we go, there's Alice. So Alice was the first one born in New Jersey. Her other siblings, Clifford, Charles, William, were born in Virginia. So here is Clifford, that's another uncle. Alfred and Clifford, Alice's uncles, stayed in Virginia for the most part. So now we're jumping over to the enslavers, the white people. So here are.
You're in a good company.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Yeah. So the Herefords were the ones who at least enslaved Alice's grandfather. So that's the first Alfred Hooe I showed you. I know this is getting confusing, but so I'm going to show you. Here, this is kind of, so here is the Dulaney family, and again, also complicated because all of my Delaney relatives marry one another. So, yeah, so you can see this, there's, Richard Henry Delaney. He owned a plantation called Wellborn, and he married Rebecca A. Delaney. They were second cousins. So,
They were second cousins.
yeah, at least not first cousins. They were second cousins. And John Peyton Delaney was Richard's father, and he owned Wellborn before him. And they're going to come into play a little later. So where my direct line comes in is Henry Grafton Delaney, who's Rebecca's brother. It's also, because again of the cousin marriage, Henry's also a cousin of Richard, but so that's where my direct line comes into that. So here's just, you can see where Loudoun County is. It's not, and you can see where Montclair is. So here is how, again, roughly, this is by car, but you can kind of see about like when the Hooe's left Virginia, they would have probably taken the railroad most of the way. So once they got to Washington, D.C., they pretty much took a straight shot up to Montclair. And here is a zoomed in photo of Loudoun County. This is southwestern Loudoun County. Actually, this line here, which is Route 50, is basically the border between Loudoun County and Fauquier County. Oakley, where I'm researching, is right about here. So not too far from Wellborn. So this is where the Herefords lived. And this is where the Delaneys lived at Wellborn. So it's 7.2 miles by car. Maybe a little less if you walked it. It's 1841. This is Thomas Hereford, again, the top one on the map. Back here, lived right here. He died in 1841, and in his will, he manumitted or freed Alfred Hooe. So it might be a little hard to read, but it says, "I do hereby give and bequeath to my slave Alfred Hooe his freedom, and do hereby direct that he shall enjoy the same. I do hereby direct my executor to pay said Alfred $100, provided he and his wife shall leave the state in 12 months after my death." So Virginia law stated that if you were freed, you had to leave the state within 12 months. Wow. Or you could be re-enslaved. Wow. From what I've researched and found, at least in this area of Virginia, the law, no one really enforced that. I haven't seen much in the records of anybody being re-enslaved. I think it was more, yeah. So here is later in the will records. This is inventory and appraisal of Thomas Hereford's estate, and it lists all the slaves. And third line down is one. That's just a mark for ditto, but one Negro, Alfred. And if you follow the line all the way across, he's appraised at $625. So he's almost appraised at the highest amount. So, and that makes sense because he is he's an adult male, and that would be one of the highest prices that should. So it's possible two of his children would have been born by this time. So there's women and 2 children, Eliza, 2 children, Lucy, 5 children. We don't know if Clifford and Alfred Jr. are there. My guess is that they are not there because their mother isn't here. Their mother is at Welburn, and that was also fairly common where the father was enslaved somewhere else and the mother was in another plantation. So the condition of the children followed the mother. So if the mother was enslaved, the children were enslaved. So if Alfred was free, that didn't change the status of his children. So here is, again, further on in Thomas Alfred's estate account, Alfred Hooe is being paid in 1844, $21.80. That's the only time I can see him being given any of that $100. I don't know if it was less because he didn't leave the state or, but that's the only record of that. So now we're moving to Charles Hooe, who is Alfred Hooe's son, and this is Alice's father. This is Alice's parents' marriage record in Loudoun County, Virginia. So I had to chop it in half because it's a really long line, but the first half is the marriage license date, the person who was basically a witness and proved their age, the date of the marriage, name of the groom, bride, ages. The bottom row now is the groom and bride's birthplace. This is Loudoun County, Virginia, and this says Mississippi. So that was where Sarah Turner was from. And then a couple lines over, you'll see Alfred and Priscilla Hooe. And right there. And then the little mark at the bottom says COLD, and that's for colored. And it says that Charles is laborer, and it lists the name of the minister. So going even further back, this is Alfred and Priscilla, so this would be Alice's grandmother. This is a certificate of importation record when, after the slave trade was abolished, you had to go to court if you were importing slaves from another state. So this is one of those records from 1813. This is John Peyton Delaney, again from Welburn. It says, brought into the date of, thank goodness Betty realized this, I didn't realize this. The date is 211 years ago exactly today.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
What we noticed was that the date of this record is the same as the birthday for Alice, which is today.
Right.
Today is
Yeah.
Alice's birthday.
Yeah.
So it was serendipitous for us to
Yeah.
look
I
at that.
didn't even notice that one. So it says brought into the date on 18 February 1813, a family of Negroes, to wit, a Negro man, James, black color, age about 34, 5'10" his wife Peggy, about 32, about 5 feet 4 inches high, black color, and then there is Priscilla, age 10, black, Henry, age 8, high color. Light color, thank you. It's smaller on my screen. Maria, age 6 years, and black, and Edward, age 1 year, of light color. So it's very possible this is all one family group, and we've even gone back another generation. These are also Priscilla's parents and her siblings, but we don't know that yet. One more slide here. This is, on the left, is a newspaper clipping from 1925, I want to say, from the Montclair Times. This is Mrs. Sarah Hooe. So there's way too many Sarah Hooes. Way too many Sarah Hooes. But this Sarah Hooe is the wife of Alfred Hooe Jr. And you can see she is, I bet you can point that out better right there. So her maiden name was Sarah Frances Daw or Dow. And she was born in Virginia, and this article, if this is entirely true, is unbelievable. How long she lived, and this is the part she vividly recalls the hanging of John Brown as her master took part in the affair.
Wow.
And so on the right is the marriage record of Sally Ashby Hooe. This would be Alice's first cousin, and she's marrying Edward Clinton Oliver. This is one of the connections to the James Howe house. So I'm also on the Howe House historians, and trying to figure out if there is any more connections to the Howe house and the Hooeys. Here's a blow up of that. How's my time? We have a little bit of time for this, or?
We done with 5 minutes.
Okay, great. I think this is the last one. This is a chancery case from 1915. This is of R.H. Delaney of Wellborn again. So this is Alfred Hooe Jr., again, who we just saw in the marriage record. He married Sarah Frances Daw. So Alfred Hooe, during the Civil War, was Colonel Richard Delaney's what they call body servant. He was with him and followed him throughout the Civil War. So for that service, Alfred was given an annuity at Richard Henry's death, Richard Delaney's death. So this chancery case, which has nothing to do with Alfred, but it lists all the money going in and out, and then includes Alfred there and all the payments to him. And then in 1915, you can see the last payment up here is for $25, and it's June 19th, 1915. And then this is December 1915, and dead. So that was it was a very small window there. So now I was able to look for a death record, and I found it. So it was really helpful. If anybody has questions, I don't know if we're doing questions or not, but
Yeah.
this is my usual ending slide.
Does
So.
anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much.
I have a question. What was your impetus, your incentive to start this research?
So my third great grandmother, who was at Oakley, she wrote a Civil War diary. My grandfather showed it to me when I was about 10, and it has names of dozens of enslaved people. And I always wanted to know how to research them. I could research my family forever. But I always wonder, well, what about their descendants? They can't find their family, it's only first names. So I never knew how to do that. Then come to 2019, a cousin said she had the Delaney Family Bible from Oakley. Has 2 pages of, it said Oakley servants at the top. Names, years of birth, and they grouped by family. So that was what really got me started. taken courses and stuff in African American slavery era research, and that's how I got started.
Thank you.
No further questions?
I have a question. What was, I have a two-part question. What was the most surprising thing that you found in your research? And what is the one thing that is like eluding you? That you were just like, oh, if I knew this thing, it would unlock so much more.
Let's see, I guess I'll take the second part of that first. I think probably just connecting with more descendants. I've been able to connect with probably 3 or 4 already, which has been wonderful. They've shared what they know, and I've shared what I know, and it's kind of like here, it got linked together. It's great. So, sorry, what was the first part?
What's the most surprising?
Most surprising. Probably maybe this. just being able to, I was kind of researching Montclair here and there for different families, and then came across this YouTube video that explained everything of this one family in New Jersey, and I was like, jackpot. And then of course meeting Betty and how nice she was, and share all this stuff, and it's been great.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So you showed some kind of unique like pieces of information.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially like you mentioned chancery case.
Right.
There was a scheduling will. You mentioned you having to go to court to import slaves. Where did you get that kind of pointed you in those directions? But particularly for somebody interested in this kind of research.
So that's where a lot of the classes I took come in handy. I took classes from some of the best genealogists in the country on African American research and slavery era, and also especially Virginia. But probably what helped the most was being on the ground in Virginia and meeting people who work at the courthouse and the genealogical society, and meeting those people and sharing what I knew with them, and then they can share what they knew with me, and then that's how I knew to look for certain things.
I was just wondering, is your family supportive of this and supportive of trying to bring families together? Like, and do they have any, I don't know if it's the right question, but do they have remorse and wanting to make better, like reparations of any sort?
That's a good question. I haven't really come across anybody who has any problem with it. My grandfather, who was really into genealogy, he was a Quaker, and he would love me doing this. I hope, anyway. I think he would. I've been trying to get a hold of actually the person who owns Oakley now. My family sold that a long time ago, but I haven't been able to get. I haven't seen Oakley yet in person, so there's definitely still people who aren't, like me and trying to do this. So, and I have talked to people about, reparations, things like that. This is the way I can best help with my skills and share the things in my attic, and this is how I can best help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, it's a general question. When ancestry sites kind of present roadblocks, what could you recommend?
Go in person.
Okay.
Not, like, so little is online, it really is. Like 1 or 2% of everything is online. Like I'm trying to think what I showed today was online. The really good stuff is still in person, buried in the archives.
I've been able to go back to the 1800s, but it's like stuff is missing.
Yeah, yeah, and but it's a lot. It's not all there. Some of it's just gone and it's not there, but a lot of it still is.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Joseph. You didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you. What is my inspiration for doing what I do? My thought is, since I live here, I always think about when your back is against the wall, what do? How do you live? My inspiration is, what did they do to survive? What did our people do to survive? So I'm always looking for those kind of stories. What was our survival story? And so the Hooe's, to me, are representative of not just their family, but other families in this town as well, who, what do we say in church? Who made a way out of no way, right? So when Booker T, I'm reminded of when Booker T. Washington came here, he was on a statewide visit in 1914. This was like his 4th visit to Montclair. He was a favorite speaker of Reverend Amory Bradford over at First Congregational Church. And he was here, and what he wanted in Montclair was a parade of the progress, representing the progress of the Black community. So with that representation, there was a young man, and you saw a picture of Bertha Sadler, who was a very good friend of Alice Hooe's. Her husband was a doctor. I think they moved here from Arkansas, someplace like that. Her son had a newspaper, and so he wrote the tabloid for the travels that Booker T. Washington was going around the state looking for a location for a Y, a permanent home for the YMCA. And so that's when they found Washington Street. But what was important was the parade was from the first location on Forest Street over to Hooe's Hall. And in that parade was a good representation of the progress of African Americans in Montclair. In that publication, I don't know how this young man got it, but he stated that the Hooe families, what do you call it, the amount of money that they had right then, at that time, was $30,000. And I looked it up. $30,000 today would be like $500,000. So I'm thinking, through all the businesses that they owned, the services that they provided around town, they were very frugal, they were very productive, and they contributed a lot. And on Alice's death, she was recognized, she and her family were recognized for the many contributions that they had made.